Okay. So here is something that sounds simple until you actually try it. Make fire. Without a lighter. Without matches. Without any modern tool of any kind. Just you. Some sticks. And the knowledge that somehow, tens of thousands of years ago, someone figured this out. Because before someone invented fire making, humans could use fire when they found it in nature. A lightning strike. A volcanic flow. A wildfire that swept through the landscape. But they could not make it. They could not create it on demand. And that meant they could not always have it. And then someone changed that. Today we are going to find out how. Let us start with the basic physics of making fire. Because everything your ancestors figured out was built on one simple principle. Friction creates heat. When two surfaces rub against each other, the molecules at the contact point move faster. They generate thermal energy. And if you can concentrate enough of that energy in one small spot, and if you have the right material to receive it, you can create an ember. A tiny glowing coal that can be coaxed into a flame. That is the entire secret. Friction. Heat. Ember. Flame. Your ancestor did not need to understand the physics. They just needed to notice that rubbing things together made them warm. And then pushed that observation to its logical extreme. The oldest known method of making fire from scratch is called the hand drill. And it is exactly what it sounds like. You take a straight dry stick. You place the pointed end into a small depression carved into a flat piece of dry wood called a fireboard. You hold the stick between your palms and you spin it rapidly while pressing downward. The spinning creates friction. The friction creates heat. The heat creates a tiny coal of fine dark powder at the base of the depression. And if you have a small notch cut beside the depression to catch that powder, and if you transfer that glowing coal to a bundle of dry tinder, and if you blow on it gently but steadily, the coal becomes a flame. Simple in principle. Extraordinarily difficult in practice. The wood has to be exactly right. The right species. The right moisture content. Too wet and the friction produces nothing. Too dry in the wrong way and it crumbles before it heats. The spindle wood and the fireboard would have to be compatible with each other. Some combinations work. Many do not. And figuring out which combinations work through trial and error in a world where failure meant staying cold and in the dark took generations. The pressure on the stick has to be exactly right. Too light and you generate no heat. Too heavy and the stick stops spinning. Your hands have to move at a consistent speed while pressing downward simultaneously. Which means after about 30 seconds your hands have slid to the bottom of the stick and you have to start again from the top without losing your rhythm or your heat. Most people who try it for the first time today, with good materials and good instructions, fail. Multiple times. 4 hours. Your ancestor figured this out from nothing. Around the same time or possibly earlier, another method was being used in parts of Europe and Asia. The bow drill. Which takes the same basic principle but adds a brilliant mechanical innovation. Instead of spinning the stick with your palms, you loop a bowstring around it. You use a hand-hold piece at the top to maintain pressure. And you move the bow back and forth rapidly to spin the stick. This gives you dramatically more speed, more friction, more heat, in dramatically less time. And it frees one hand to maintain pressure instead of both hands spinning. The bow drill is faster, more reliable, and it requires planning. You need a bow. You need a string. You need a hand hold. You need a fireboard. You need a spindle. Getting these components right together requires thinking ahead, problem solving, and passing that knowledge to others. And then there is perhaps the most elegant fire-making method of all. The flint and steel. Around 400,000 years ago, evidence suggests that ancient humans were striking flint stones against iron pyrite, a mineral that sparks dramatically when struck against certain stones. A spark from flint and pyrite burns at around 300 degrees Celsius. hot enough to ignite fine tinder. And it takes less than a second. The challenge was not creating the spark. It was capturing it. You needed extremely fine dry tinder directly below where the sparks would fall. Dry grass. Dried fungus. Powdered dry wood. The spark lands on the tinder and creates a glowing spot. And then you do the same thing as always. You cup the tinder, you bring it to your face, and you blow. Gently. Steadily. Watching the glow spread. Until it becomes a flame. And here is what strikes me about all of this. None of these methods are easy. All of them require knowledge that cannot be discovered accidentally in a single moment. They require observation, experimentation, failure, adjustment, and the passing of specific learned techniques from one person to another across generations. Fire making was not a single discovery. It was a technology. Built slowly, over thousands of years, by people who were paying very careful attention to what happened when they rubbed things together in exactly the right way. And somewhere in that long, slow process of discovery, one person made an ember that did not come from a lightning strike or a volcano. They made it themselves. From friction and wood and patience and careful attention. They held that tiny glowing coal in a bundle of dry grass. They brought it to their lips. And they blew. And the world changed. Not because of the flame. Because of the knowledge that they could make it again. Any time. Any place. For the first time in human history, fire belonged to us. Not just when nature gave it. Whenever we needed it.